This Starrcast show, just like all of our Starrcast shows, are available at adfreeshows.com.
So, along with that, I mean, you've gone on record and saying there were some dark times around then, and you had thought about quitting wrestling. And I think, that's well documented. So instead, I'd like to talk about some lighter times from the TNA run. You had mentioned the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, two guys that have been one of the best all-time opponents for you. Daniels and Kazarian, SCU, Sanjay, like all those X Division guys. You guys had some really fantastic matches with them. Yeah. But one guy that you met there that would prove to be another pivotal individual there was none other than Kazuchika Okada.
Yep. Oh yeah. We got along with him right away. He's such a funny person, like behind the scenes, that people wouldn't even realize how funny
goofy.
he is. Oh my goodness. We hit it off literally the first day we saw him.
He was in a bus with Tiger Hattori.
That's right.
We didn't realize, we had heard the name Tiger Hattori. We didn't know that was Tiger Hattori though. He's like this little Japanese man with a ponytail, and him and Okada, who was like this, at the time he was like a really tall, chubby young guy with a baby face. And I remember we went up to him and we introduced ourselves, and Tiger spoke for him. He's like, "This is Okada," and we're like, "Hey, we're Matt and Nick."
Man.
Hey man, this is my young boy Okada. You know?
But from there on out, though, we made sure we hung out with him every day.
I think it was because of
we had a
Dragon Gate, right? Because we felt like being around Japanese people, like we learned how to speak to them a little bit. Like we knew a little Japanese, but it was, I don't know, like it was almost fun for us. We're like, I missed that part of my life. Japan, he's Japanese. Let's be friends. So we took him right in.
Yep.
And Nick would goof off with them every day. Like they would prank each other. Nick and Okada would do 15 rounds of gator golf.
Oh my goodness!
In the locker room, because none of us were ever booked.
Not
often, at least.
Some of those TV tapings would last like 12 hours.
So Nick, myself, the Motor City Machine Guns, Spanky, Jay Lethal, Amazing Red, and Okada, we would all go off to the park and ride the coasters. I remember Okada loved going on Jaws and E.T., especially for some reason.
That ride takes like 45 minutes. There's that section where you gotta like type in your name and stuff.
There was one time where TNA wanted him to bleed. And he felt very uncomfortable with this situation. And I remember he came up to Matt and I and told us, "Hey, these guys want me to cut my forehead." And right away we were like, "What?"
And he was doing the Okada gimmick at the time. He wasn't even wrestling.
He wasn't even
Joe's
being booked.
manager.
Yeah, and we said that's a terrible idea. So we went to bat for him, and we helped him get out of that situation. And I feel like he liked that a lot, that we helped him out of that, and later on it would probably pay off for us. You know what I mean?
We bonded over that, I think. He realized, these guys are actually my friends and they care about me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just this weird, like, we're just coincidentally in the same locker room, we're hanging out. Like, no, these guys are cool. So we became even closer
friends.
At that point.
Yeah, exactly. We ate meals with him every day. So we became best friends. And he started a thing back then that he did to this day. Was he would find my gear, he would take it out of my bag, and he would put it on, and he would find me and surprise me in my Young Bucks outfit. Every single show. So at the point where I would try to trick him and hide my gear just so he couldn't find it, but every single time, I'm not kidding you, up to the last show that we did for New Japan at the Tokyo Dome this year, he did it, and I have about 20 photos of it that I'll later release. That way I have something, like some type of blackmail on him.
I would go through my camera roll, and there'd just be 50 selfies of Okada. Yeah. Like, he would just see my phone and take these stupid pictures.
He's a phone bandit.
He's the best, exactly. Man. I miss him.
Yeah. So the run in TNA ends in July of 2011. Almost immediately after, you return to Ring of Honor. You go back to the independents, and you guys have a fantastic run, you know, in the U.S. Indies. And we're a little short on time, so I'm going to fast forward through. October 15th, 2013, you guys debut for New Japan Pro Wrestling as a part of Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And that was thanks to Tiger and Okada.
Yep.
Tiger asked Okada, hey, we need some junior tag teams. And immediately Okada said, I know the guys. It's the Young Bucks. So I remember I got a Voxer. I don't know if that's even still around.
Oh, yeah, you guys were huge on Voxer. It was the most mind-boggling thing. It was the weird...
But I get a Vox from Hattori, who I didn't believe it was him. There's always a story about, I thought he was ribbing me. But he's like, hey, man, I don't know if you remember me, Tiger Hattori, I want you to come to Japan. And I'm like, is this real? And then Nick's like, it is real, because I just got a Facebook message from Okada, and they want us to come to New Japan. And immediately they were getting on our visas, and a few weeks prior to our debut, they told us, you're going to be in Bullet Club. And we were like, this is perfect, because our act on the Independence had kind of spun into this really weird tribute act to legendary wrestlers. And we'd come out doing Macho Man, and we were doing Suck It and Too Sweet and all this stuff. And just kind of doing, I think it started from the Booker T handshake thing.
Yeah.
So we would come out and kind of do the five time thing. And then we were like, that got a good reaction. Let's just do them all, and so it was funny because at the same time when we were getting the Too Sweet back over, those guys were doing it in Japan. And we were like, this is great. We kind of have the same carefree attitude where you just do whatever you want. We're a perfect fit. So we show up in 2013, October, and I remember Fergal does that promo, and he didn't even know our names. He's like, Nick Buck, Matt Buck, the Young Bucks. And like, the whole tour, Machine Gun just was like, that was the worst promo ever. But immediately, this group of guys, like, they just took us in, and we were like family immediately.
It was Fale, Fergal, Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, Tama Tonga,
who wasn't there for the first tour, but they were so cool. And immediately we rode together, we ate together, we did everything together. We were a real group. It wasn't just like what you saw on TV. Like immediately, like within a month, we were like, we have new best friends.
Well, so that's the thing that people don't realize about the New Japan is that, like for AEW, everybody kind of travels separately to the show. We might be in the same hotel or something like that. But in New Japan, all the factions are on the same bus. So there's a bus for Bullet Club, a bus for LIJ, a bus for Chaos. And so it's like you are... And they're like 8-10-hour drives. Yeah. And so you're just on this bus with these guys.
So you naturally bond together. Yeah. And you're the only ones who really speak English language too, so that's another thing. Like you just have friends who have so many common interests. And immediately we hit it off with these guys.
So then in November of 2014, the cleaner, Kenny Omega, joins Bullet Club. And he was a guy that had been in and around, he'd been into DDT up until that point. But because of the way things are, you don't get to spend that much time with each other. But then all of a sudden, he's on the bus. You're spending 8 to 10 hours every day with Kenny Omega, and you begin to meld minds.
Sure.
You become like this weird wrestling chimera, and that was really, I think if you look back to where AEW started, it was on those tours on that bus.
Yeah, you're right. We had went like 4 years without seeing him at
we went separate ways. He moved to Japan. We went to TNA.
Yeah.
And we did ROH. We didn't see him for a while.
Yeah, so we were still friends, but you know how wrestling is. Like, you lose contact, and then it's like, man.
But you run into somebody, and then it's like you never...
Exactly. So that kind of happened with Kenny. And from there on out, though, the rest is history because... we see him now every week. But
I remember being on the bus, and we hit it off. I think it was the first time we saw Kenny before he officially signed with New Japan. We did a Super Juniors tournament.
That's right, yeah.
And we gravitated to each other again, and we just sat in the bus together, and we came up with our elite list of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yep.
And it was always the elite. There's good wrestlers, there's great wrestlers. We need to talk about and list the elite wrestlers.
And of course, we always put the three of us on that list.
The Young Bucks, always so humble. Nothing has ever changed.
It became kind of like lingo, though. Like, Nick would go, God, that was a pretty good meal. And Kenny would pipe in and go, was it elite? So, like, it became a joke. And, like, everybody on the bus started doing it. Elite was just a word we all used to compare things.
So, on January 5th, 2016, I believe that was New Year's Dash, the Elite was actually born. Yourselves and Kenny become a little mini unit within Bullet Club.
Yes.
And that was also the same day that the first episode of Being the Elite dropped on YouTube?
We knew that the day prior or 2 days prior, we learned that AJ, Carl, and Gallows were leaving. And we knew something was up, but we didn't know exactly what was up. So they blindsided all of us. Like, literally, we had no idea they were going to WWE.
Well, at one point, they were going to TNA for sure.
Yeah,
remember that?
So we learned along with everybody else, and we saw Gato kind of panic book Kenny into the heavyweights the last second, the night before the Dome. So Nick and I and Kenny, we got together and we were like, we need to come up with something because otherwise we're going to look like the Bullet Club leftovers.
Yep.
So
we had to act fast.
We knew we were turning on AJ that night, but we had another plan. When all the other Bullet Club guys left, me, Nick, and Kenny stuck around ringside. And Kenny looked at Nick and said, should we go back into the ring? And Kenny said, ask Matt what he thinks. So Nick goes, Matt, should we go back into that? And I was already sliding into the ring. And Kenny got in there and he says, what should we do? Should I give him the Styles Clash and you guys double super kick him? I said, yes. So he hung AJ upside down. We double super kicked him and he gave him the Styles Clash.
All on the fly, too.
He said, and then Kenny goes, hit your pose, hit your pose, hit your pose. So we hit the Bucks pose and then Kenny does the AJ hand gloves thing. And immediately the place just showered us in booze. And I went to the back right then and there, and I don't know why. It's just maybe it's because the word was so fresh in my mind. But I put out the picture from a fan who tweeted it to me, and I said, "The elite of Bullet Club." And then from that point on, we were like, "This is it. This is the new thing we need to go with."
And then so a couple months after that, Adam Cole, Hangman Adam Page, they joined Bullet Club, and then shortly thereafter, Cody puts out his list.
That's right.
And the Young Bucks were featured on that list. And then in December of that same year, Cody joins Bullet Club in New Japan.
You know, we had just met Cody at a PWG show. Everything always comes back to PWG, right?
That's crazy, yeah?
We saw him in Reseda, and it was in the middle of summer at a Bola. So it must have been, was it 2016 Bola?
Yeah, I think so.
And he's in this suit and tie, and we're like, what the hell are you doing?
He's in a suit and tie right now.
Yeah. We're like, it's so hot. What are you doing, dude? He's like, hey, my name's Cody. It's nice to meet you. My friend Kevin Owens, tells me great things about you. And immediately we traded numbers. We hit it off. And we found out soon after he was coming to Bullet Club. And at first we were like, you know what? This is different. We've never had a guy who wears a suit come into the Rebel group.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest. I said, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm not sure. And then Cody texted us the VTR, the video that they shot. And as soon as Matt and I saw it, we're all, oh my God, this is definitely going to work.
This guy's got something.
Yeah. And it right away it did work. It's crazy how all the connecting dots goes with the whole story.
Meanwhile, this guy came up with the genius idea of doing Being the Elite, which you said a second ago. And at the time, beforehand, it was just kind of like a travel vlog for us and Kenny. We were bored in Japan, so we just filmed things. And then it got to the point where we had like characters show up on the show and little storylines. Cody ended up getting on the show. We had him kind of as a background character to talk a little bit, but he was such a good actor. And we would write up these funny scripts, and he was so unafraid to dive into these weird things, and he would make the ideas even better. So we were like, this guy's great. Like, he should always be on our show. So then he became a character on the show every week.
How over was FTR, by the way?
Yeah, FTR was his creation.
Yeah.
And we bonded over that. Like, he was genuinely mad at those guys, I think, because they were kind of trashing us online. So he's like, screw those guys. FTR.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.